Welcome to the Elevate the Vibe podcast, bringing you juicy convos with thought leaders discussing the wild world of parenting. Happy almost New Year, Vibe Hive. This is your host of the Elevate the Vibe podcast, Katie Berlin, with my co-host husband, Jason Berlin. And like many of us out there, 2020 has been a wild ride. And this episode, we're talking about intention setting, goals for 2021.
And it's funny that you mentioned this, my beautiful co-host here, because the other day I realized I really needed to start focusing my thoughts on what do I really want out of the next 1 year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, because, you know, with the wash of emotions over this year and all of our major life events that we've dealt with, I've kind of lost sight about my future goals. So what better time than New Year's to kind of itemize out some of my thoughts and some of my dreams and some of my hopes and put them out on paper for us to focus on and try to attain.
Some people are really turned off by New Year's resolutions. They feel like it's just another day, it's just another year, it's no big deal. This is not something that I feel like is beneficial. But regardless if you do it for the new year or just maybe when it's your birthday, like a personal new year, I think that there's a lot of value in writing down your goals, thinking about your goals, and putting a plan in place. So yes, 2020 was a difficult year for many of us. Jason and I in 2019 had set goals for 2020 that became completely like destroyed by the year. It was almost like a 180 to what we wanted to be able to happen. I'm not saying 2020, but just with the goals that we wanted to achieve, it was almost like a 180 to those goals. Like we had big, lofty investment goals and everything got pulled back. And I was like, none of this is happening this year. So for 2021, we both feel like it's important to sit down together and iron out what is our plan? What's our plan for the next year? What's our plan for the next 3 years? What's our plan for the next 5 years? And begin to put pen to paper and say, here's where we want to invest. Here's where we want to achieve. This is the future that we envision for ourselves. And we look at that big future, like what does it look like a visionary, and say, you know, am I living in a house on the beach with a boat, you know, whatever it is, my 3-car garage. I mean, these are very material.
Maserati.
It might seem material, but it's a part of it. It's a part of the process. It helps you to visualize when you think of the material aspect of it, but also what does it feel like? How does the freedom feel? How does the time freedom feel? How does the mental freedom feel when you're not just moving through day to day feeling hopeless or directionless? So that's a big part of it. And what we do is we sit down each year and we take some time to map this out. And when we think about it from our point of view, it's important for us as adults, but it also impacts our family. These goals that we have impact our children's future. It's a big aspect of how we're driving towards setting up a future life for them as well.
And I know there's the old adage, life is what happens between making plans, but there's some truth to that. However, I think planning is one of the most important things you can teach your kids, because with no plan, what are you doing? You're just kind of floundering. You're just kind of going through the motions. It's a day-to-day sort of thing, but you need to have a year sort of outlook. You need to have those future ideas in the back of your mind that help drive your process forward so that you get what you need to get.
And our children are still very young. I say children, we do have a 2.5-year-old, and we're recording this. I'm 10 months pregnant. Baby has not arrived yet. This episode should air on December 30th. Baby would hopefully definitely be here.
Hopefully she's like a month and a half at that point.
Right.
This point.
By December 30th. But personally, I feel like it will be important to loop our children into our goals as well and share those goals with them. Like, hey, this is what we want to do. I mean, in a way that's appropriate for them to comprehend and understand, but giving them insights into the behind the scenes of our lives so that as we conduct ourselves and move through our businesses and make changes in our lives, they understand why we're doing it collectively as a family. I mean, yes, they're kids. They're going to play, they're going to have fun, but we also want them to understand the importance of creating an intention, setting a goal, thinking about it, working towards it, and not just giving up, because it takes grit, it takes perseverance. You have to be flexible. I mean, maybe your exact goal isn't reached, but be flexible on the method. You could get even farther than you anticipated, but it's like at least you have some direction.
I mean, if you look at all the visionaries out there, like Elon Musk, he's probably not like, I'm just going to invent this money transferring service and then launch a rocket. Sure, he has all sorts of crazy goals and ambitions, but, I think you find that end goal and then you work backwards and you set the small plot points in place of how I get there, and you methodically get to each point. And, what does it take this year to get there? What does it take this year to get there? And, that's how you achieve the big dreams, is by you have a nest of small dreams all along the way that you start crossing off the boxes. And then all of a sudden, hey, look, I just launched a rocket into outer space. It's like it could happen for anybody.
Yeah, watch out, Elon. Space Z is coming to
Space B.
Space B is coming to town. Right now I'm reading a book called The One Thing. It's by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And the whole idea behind the book is that you build your life and your focus around one thing. So many people get distracted by the myriad of scenarios that are taking place in their life and kind of get derailed from their bigger goals because they cannot put the time and energy into focusing on that one thing, maybe because fear, or maybe they don't know what it is. But this is where it's helpful to envision your life 5 years down the road. And what do you see for yourself? Like, what do you want? Do you want to be in a certain career? Are you in that career already and you want a certain title? Do you want to own your own business? Do you want to have 2 more children? I mean, whatever it may be, thinking and focusing on that goal and then creating the smaller steps to get you there. Yes, there's that one goal, that one thing, but then each day with those smaller goals to get you to your big goal, each day, what is that one thing that you can do that gets you closer? What's the one area that you can focus on where everything else really is just busy work and not really driving you? Like, what drives you towards that end goal?
And here's a nice compliment to my beautiful co-host here. I was never really the type of person who would set large goals for myself. I feel like when I was younger, I was like, well, I'm just going to play drums and I'll find a gig and I'll do this and I'll do that. I feel like I had a lot of drive, but not necessarily like the direction that it took. And Katie was monumental in kind of helping me focus my goals and set intentions to achieve larger goals. I said, I got into the TV production business, and I found out early on in some of the more entry-level positions that I wanted to be an editor, and I didn't really know how to get there. But, with Katie and some of my friends, I started to, navigate the plot points of what it would take to get there. And so I started out as a transcriber, and then I moved into a different role. I don't want to get down the rabbit hole of my career or anything, but I basically set these plot points along the way, and I said, I only want to do this certain job for 2 years, and then after that, I need to really look elsewhere to move my career up. So, Katie, thank you for you've helped me set so many goals along my way in my life, and I feel like I've actually reached a lot of them sooner than I would have if I would have just been like, yeah, I guess I'll edit someday, I don't really care, I'm just kind of like, no, like Katie here, what she's not leading on to too much is that she is a very determined, very methodical person, and she knows her goals and dreams, and she gets all of them. She goes after them relentlessly, mind you, and she's paying me a lot to say this, but no.
He was forced into this podcast because it was a dream.
I don't want to say blackmailed, Shug. That's too hard.
A goal of mine. I was like, oh, we're doing this. And he was like, ugh.
No. It's a lot of fun. We're having a good time with it. But again, this is something, Katie had a vision for this as well. And it's like, look, we're 40 episodes in and we're having a lot of fun with it. So all of your dreams can be accomplished. You just have to set a roadmap. And circling back to the impetus of this conversation is that intention setting, goal setting, whether it's New Year's or not, it's important to have a trajectory of your hopes and dreams. You know, we got to dream big if we're going to make a difference in this world.
As a tangible takeaway to this, there are really numerous ways that you can go about it, but something that works for me is writing it down. So look at your life. If you can't envision where you want to be 5 years from now, think about when you're 70 years old or when you're 100 years old and say, what do I want to look back on and see that I achieved? What is important to me? What is most important to me? Is it being at every child's ballet recital, soccer practice, whatever it is? Is it building a clothing company from the ground up? Is it just working remotely and being able to step out of your office and have dinner with your family every night? Whatever it may be, visualize that and then work backwards and put a plan into place. What would you need to achieve even this year to make that happen?
One thing Katie really helped me with was creating a vision board. So I was never really the type of person to journal, write down my thoughts even. It was all just a flurry of activity going up in here with a bunch of drum beats. But she helped me out with creating a collage of ideas that I could put on a poster board that I could look at every day and be like, okay, well, there's the type of house that I want. There's the type of car I want. There's the family that I want. There's whatever it tends to be. So if you can also visualize that way, in addition to writing down your goals and aspirations, that's like the double whammy. It's like you work backwards. You see that house, you're like, well, where can I afford that house? I can't afford it where I live right now. Okay, well, what can I change to make that happen? And you make the small incremental changes, and then all of a sudden you're living in that house.
And another aspect of this is that this could be something really fun to do with your children too, if they have certain hopes and dreams for themselves, and maybe they don't express it in the same way depending on their age. Maybe they're like, I want to be a baseball player when I grow up, or I want to be a veterinarian when I grow up, or a marine biologist. It's like, okay, well, let's go to the aquarium once every 3 months this year so that you can check out the sea life, and let's buy a book or watch a video on it, whatever it is, so that you kind of nurture their dreams and help them along and teach them that if you dream it, you can achieve it. It's possible. I mean, it doesn't have to be in the same way as an adult. You write it down and look at your goal and think about it every day and create a plan, but it can still be the same for children as well.
All right, Vibe Hivers, we want to say thanks and a big shout out to all of you for listening to us throughout our first season here at Elevate the Vibe. It's been a lot of fun.
We appreciate you rocking with us through all of 2020, whether you're new to the podcast now or you've been listening since the very first episode. Like we shared, this was a dream of ours, a goal for this past year. And although this year was crazy, we managed to stick with it, see the podcast through. We're excited that we're 43 episodes deep. We're excited to see what the new year will bring. And of course, we want to hear from you. Drop us a comment on our most recent IG post. Share with us when it comes to visualization, when it comes to declaring your dreams, what works for you? What tips, tricks, tactics have you implemented that have helped you create, manifest, and achieve even more than what you thought you were capable of? And with that, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.